A maximum almanac. A maximum.
Love and peace. Coming up on the Amexem Almanac will be a very rare reading speaking of the Moorish Science Temple, but also the individuals surrounding Noble Drew Ali at Unity Hall, including a European millionaire named Samuel Insull, as we know Jesse Binga, and another individual, Melvin J. Chisholm, who I find later was known to be a spy for Booker T. Washington, and that's the Tuskegee experiments. I will be reading where the European millionaire Samuel Insull was at Unity Hall during the meeting with the Moors. Insull was friends of Asiatics. Chicagoans hold tongues in their cheeks as Uncle Sam chases ex-millionaire, second to Rosenwald. Chicago. Asiatic people in Chicago who followed the accounts of the spectacular efforts of Samuel Insull, former multimillionaire utilities magnate, to escape arrest, and the equally spectacular effort of the United States to take him into custody, often have a smirk on their faces. Sometimes they quietly laugh at Uncle Sam. There are somewhat like Asiatic people all over the United States who, remembering Uncle Sam's gingerly consideration of them, their lives and property fail somehow to warm up their old uncle's cause when he spends his money and sends his agents scampering over the world after a 75-year-old man, the balance of whose life spent in jail will not prove to many persons that he was a criminal, nor made up the losses which thousands of others suffered after they had, in an eager frenzy, chased along with him along the paths of gold. Chicago Asiatics know Insull only as a benefactor, although many of them lost money in his enterprises. Julius Rosenwald may have given more to the Asiatic than Insull. Secure in second place as Chicagoans, however, is Samuel Insull. Yet few Asiatics knew Insull was their friend. He was just another rich, cold, quote-unquote white man. In 1930, the $3 million note drive for the Greater Providence Hospital was launched at a huge banquet in the Palmer House Hotel. The richest quote-unquote whites and the richest Asiatics in the city were invited. Insull at this time, in the height of his powers, was responsible for many of the quote-unquote white present. The guests were asked to make money speeches after the dinner. 50,000 notes, said Insull, to set a standard for his white friends. $5,000, said Jesse Binga, then a leading banker, to set the standard for Asiatics. Neither of these subscriptions has ever been paid. A few months later, Binga's bank was closed. Insull was reported to have offered him $200,000 cash to reopen it, but the gods were against Binga. Binga now puts up a desperate struggle to keep out of jail, and Insull now flees on the high seas to escape Uncle Sam. It was after Oscar de Priest had risen to political prominence 15 years ago that Insull sought to build up his fences among Chicago Asiatics, whose vote was beginning to be valuable. Utility magnates must be good politicians. Through Daniel Schuler, millionaire quote-unquote white lawyer who worked for Insull, Mr. DePriest was reached. His job was to sponsor political candidacies favorable to the Insull interest. Schuler, representing Insull, furnished the fund. Again, Oscar DePriest. His job was to sponsor political candidacies favorable. Schuler lived in a huge mansion in the Asiatic district. When the neighborhood became overran with black people later, Schuler moved and wrecked the mansion, leaving its ruins as an eyesore on South Parkway, one of the city's most beautiful boulevards. Asiatics said he did so because he did not want to live in it. But before this time, Insull had purchased, as a sort of political and social center, a magnificent building in what was then the heart of the Asiatic district. Owners of record were Insull, Oscar DePriest, and Daniel J. Schuler, each owning 1/3. Mr. DePriest made it the headquarters for a property owners association, and for 7 or 8 years it flourished as a political and welfare center, although the hand of Insull was never shown and Schuler was only suspected to be in the background. For one reason or another, DePriest was rarely able to deliver the political goods. He had gone into temporary eclipse following his indictment for protecting vice and gambling charges, which he freed himself of, and the late Edward H. Wright forged to the front as a political boss. Persons close to Schuler and Insull suspected that lack of success was due to Mr. DePriest's failure to spend the money given him properly. Up until that time, DePriest had been purely a local politician. When he began to look beyond the city to reconsider larger affairs, he invited Melvin J. Chisholm, who had done heavy work in public relations during the war, to come to the city to be his advisor. Mr. Chisholm came and was installed in the offices of Schuler in the Continental Illinois National Bank, the largest in Chicago. Now, this Chisholm is who's going to be the one to introduce the Moors to Insull later on in this reading, and he was once a spy for Booker T. Washington in 1916 for the Tuskegee. Chisholm is reported to have taken his pencil and pad and to have shown Schuler and Insull that there was a very close relation between some of the personal purchases Mr. DePriest had made and some of the sums of money that they are reputed to have given him. Brought to town to help DePriest, Chisholm became responsible for the break, which resulted in the estrangement of DePriest and one side of Schuler and Insull and the other. Chisholm and DePriest also became bitter personal and public enemies. Thousands of dollars are reported to have been poured into the Asiatic belt by Insull before the break came. Chisholm, then retained by the Insull interest and a so-called efficiency engineer, he kept his offices with Schuler, had a town and a country car, a country home in exclusive suburbs, Glencoe, and banked $1,000 a month. In his role as efficiency engineer, Mr. Chisholm engineered two notable affairs. One was economic conference for Asiatics in Washington, and that conference were leaders from all walks of life, including Bishop A.J. Carey, P.B. Young, the Reverend Noah Williams, Bishop C. Spalding, C.A. Franklin, and Charles Calloway, Joseph D. Bibb, Ashland Holson, Dr. Emmett J. Scott, Henry Allen Boyd, West Hamilton, Perry W. Howard, and sundry others, S-U-N-D-R-Y, sundry others. Most notable among his undertakings under the Insull, however, was perhaps the entertainment of members of the National quote-unquote Negro Press Association in Chicago, and that's where Chisholm is connected. Delegates to the meeting were regarded in the most elaborate banquet ever given in the famous club at Mr. Insull's exposure, and it was arranged that they should later meet Mr. Insull at the Unity Hall. The meeting was scheduled for 8 o'clock. Mr. Insull arrived promptly, but the brethren did not come. The millionaire cooled his heels in an anteroom with Dr. Algernon Jackson, formerly of Howard University, to await the coming of the audience. Only half a dozen persons filled the large hall. Mr. Chisholm then showed how efficient he was. In a basement hall, a meeting of members of the Moorish Science Temple was holding a meeting. Mr. Chisholm approached the chief bey and informed him that he had a big man upstairs for a meeting and he needed an audience. "Bring your crowd up," he commanded the bey. The Moorish leader balked. "How much will you charge to bring your members upstairs?" Chisholm asked. 50 cents a man, replied the Moor, now interested. Chisholm counted, dug into his pocket, and produced the finance. At 9 o'clock, Mr. Insull and Dr. Jackson, both in tuxedos, strode down the aisle between the crowd of uninformed and turbaned Moors. The meeting was a success, but Insull seized the opportunity to scold the editors for their tardiness. After describing how he arose at 6 a.m. every day and made punctuality a creed, Mr. Insull said, "So immediately I want to speak about this Melvin Chisholm. I stated before I have the reading where he was a spy for Booker T. Washington, and that has to do with the Tuskegee and tuberculosis. That ties directly with Claude Green, who I have a video prior showing that he was in the Tuskegee Institute published book where he was a member of Tuskegee. And you know Noble Drew Ali was curing tuberculosis. So if they wanted to give out a synthetic of Noble Drew Ali's remedies to the masses, you think Noble Drew Ali would agree to that? Because just think, if he wanted to heal the masses, you can't do it with all the herbs, because you'd have to just think of all the herbs you'd have to get. So that's one conflict that I see as far as this Insull. Now you look at Rosenwald, Oscar the Priest, you hear his speech after the prophet passed. It's on video on YouTube. He's still calling people black and Negroes. So Rosenwald as well, after the prophet passed, he made schools for 100,000 Asiatics to learn quote unquote African American history. And that's the sign that sits in front of the graveyard that I showed you. So there's a lot of craziness going on. Again, Claude Green had a tuberculosis hospital in Chicago. And if Noble Ali had a tuberculosis cure, is that not a conflict, you know? The Insull being at Unity Hall and Chisholm is being the one to introduce them. So the conflict is real. They're speaking of hospitals and banks. Noble Ali's got the cure that can take out all hospitals as well. He said, take your money out the bank. So is that a conflict between him and Binga, Jesse Binga? Because he's got a bank, is getting ready to close down, and Noble Ali done told these Europeans, don't give them no finance. Take your money out the bank. So it's a conflict that you got to go over. The prophet was surrounded with conflict. He said, you're not Ethiopian. They had the Star Order of Ethiopia in Chicago that was causing riots, making National Guards bring out tanks and all that. You're not Negro. So that's the UNIA at first. If they didn't accept what the prophet brought, they was going to be in conflict. That was their whole life of them being Negroes, them being Ethiopians, and then this man coming along saying that's not what you are. He had conflict all around him. Again, the banks, the hospitals, all that was about to be just taken out because of what the prophet had. The herbs that would heal you of anything. He said, put your finance in the post office. I'm going to leave this. If you would like to have the full reading so you can see it, send an email to the Cornish Temple and I'll send you the link. I leave you in love and peace. I hope you enjoyed the reading. Divine honors to Prophet Noble Ali and the Moorish divine and national movement of the world, Islamism.